Okay, so this is Ignite session 14, Win the Buyer. We are starting our transaction portion of our sections. So Win the Buyer is today. Next week, why does it do this? Next week is Win the Seller. Work with buyers and sellers, make and receive offers, negotiate offers, get to close, and plan your future. So we only have 6 weeks left. Before we get started, I want to hear what you guys have learned so far in Ignite. We've had several sessions together. So Janelle, I know you're new. So Chris, share with us what you have learned.
I think with Ignite, it's just really helped paint that picture in my head. You know, going through my pre-licensing course, everything was like, you know, PowerPoints based on kind of like this, but just talking about it and being able to implement what I learned here to actually trying to get these, for example, buyers or sellers, you know, seeing this, it definitely helps paint a bigger picture and implementing it as well.
Awesome. Well, that's the hope, is like, you know, this, it really builds a bridge from that pre-license session, because that's more about license laws and ethics and, you know, CYA, and this is more applicable stuff. So how was last week's session with Shacarol? Were you on that one, Chris?
Yes, it was very good.
Yeah, she's awesome. I love her. All right, so let's go. We're going to talk about during the transaction today, lead generation, lead follow-up. Well, we've talked about lead generation, lead follow-up, and today we're going into the transaction, which is a big part of it. And this, the reason they don't start with that is because you don't have transactions without the first part. So we don't just start with working with buyers and sellers, because we have to lead generate to get those. And we have to follow up with a great system. Okay, so we're going to talk about A, buyers today, getting the appointment, preparing for your buyer consultation, conducting your buyer consultation, and getting a buyer agreement signed. Very, very important. All right, Gary Keller says the right approach to close for a meeting is the only approach. Just ask for it. How many times do you have a great conversation with somebody, you connect with them, and then you don't close for an appointment? All the time. We do it constantly. We probably don't even realize we do it.
It's happened a few times.
Yeah. You have to get in the habit of asking for the appointment. That's how you're going to get those appointments. All right, so let's talk about an A buyer. That is a very important thing. So again, here is a look at our database model, where you can kind of see the funnel happening here. Step one is with prospecting and marketing. You capture the lead, you put them into your database. That's putting them into command. You have leads, form relationships with them. They become contacts where you strengthen that relationship, and it becomes a two-way street. And then you prepare those contacts for conversion. So you're interactive, you're needs-based, and then of course they come out as new business, repeat business, or referral business. And it's one big, huge client and referral loop. So what is a qualified buyer? What do you guys think?
Probably the best candidate.
Okay. What makes them a good candidate?
I would probably, I'm not sure. I would say their willingness.
Well, right. I mean, you're on the right track. So the key is ready, willing, and able. So if you've got somebody interested and wanting more information, they may be a future buyer, but an A buyer is somebody that's going to buy and prepared to show and put in an offer in the next 10 to 14 days. That's kind of a hot buyer. That's someone at the top of your pipeline. And that's what I want you to start thinking about. You're building a database, yes, but the database is engineered to create a pipeline. The pipeline is to your pocketbook. So as you're having conversations with people, the more people that are ready, willing, and able, whether buyers or sellers, but today we're talking about buyers, those are your A buyers. So you're going to classify them and you're going to treat them differently. So how do you follow up with an A buyer? Would you say it's frequent or infrequent follow-up?
I would probably say frequent.
Yeah, frequent. Well, if we've said this person is going to buy within the next 2 weeks, that's an urgency. So you're going to follow up with them daily, making sure that you're getting an appointment with them if you haven't, and that you are solid on them knowing what your value proposition is and you knowing what their motivation is. All right, so there is a 7-step buyer service cycle. Now, this is added into y'all's orientation binder. This is one of the things I kind of put in there was the buyer and seller sections of this, thinking that even if you hadn't taken Ignite, this would be important to you. So if we look at the 7-step buyer service cycle, which is a mouthful, we've talked a lot about models. This model is proven to reap success. It comes in any market with any buyer. So these are the basis of the buyer service cycle. You want to cover them at a high level. So lead to appointments. You want to lead generate to get and lead follow-up to get appointments. You want to prepare for the buyer consultation. And today we're talking about that. The buyer consultation, again, covering that, that's what you conduct. Find a home. So we're going to start working with buyers and sellers, and we're going to cover that here in Ignite. We're going to offer and negotiate the contract. We're going to cover that on session 17 and 18. Contract to close on session 19, and then post-close systems. Again, we're going to do that on session 19. So far in Ignite, we've really prepared you for 50% of what we need to do, and then we're going to cover the rest of it. So we can make sure that we know what is an A buyer, because we talked about that today, and what do we do with it? How do we convert that? All right, so let's talk about getting the appointment. So of course, you want to respond right away to any lead inquiries. Anyone that has urgency, is ready, willing, and able, shows interest, of course, you're going to respond to them quickly, efficiently, get them face-to-face as soon as you can. You want to get valid and complete contact information, put it in command, and create yourself an opportunity. So if you haven't yet created a fake opportunity, I encourage you to do that. It shows you like the steps that you'll take when there is a client. How someone becomes from a contact to an opportunity is you have the opportunity to be in business with them. So that is somebody that you're meeting with, that you have the stages to walk through with them, from signing an agreement all the way through the closed transaction. You want to determine their motivation to buy so you can speak to it, right? A lot of times we have to bring people back to that motivation and set an appointment for as soon as possible. If this A buyer is going to buy in the next 2 weeks, we've got to get in front of them quickly. Now, will they buy in 2 weeks? Maybe not. But if you treat that person who's ready, willing, and able like they will buy in 2 weeks, you're going to have a better response with them. All right. So let's see. Here are the 7 close to appointment tactics. You want to show the benefits. In general, people are more likely to go along with something if you suggest and show the benefit to them. If spending 30 minutes with me could save you hours of time and thousands of dollars in your home search, would that be benefit to you? Great, let's meet. There's the take back close. This technique puts a tempting offer in front of the buyer, then subtly creates fear they may not be able to get it. So that's, I've enjoyed talking with you. To be honest, I don't know whether I can be of help to you or not. However, I'd be honored if we could meet to find out. How about we meet tomorrow? The negative positive close. It's a way of backing into the appointment to close. Would you be offended if I asked you if we could meet tomorrow to go over all this in a little more detail? I'm free tomorrow. What works for you? Good. And then give them what they're looking for. You want to quickly pique their interest by giving them what they're looking for, information on interesting comparable properties. Yes, let's meet at my office. I can give you the specific details about that property and let you know about similar properties also for sale. What time works for you? Great, see you then. Now, of course, that's going to be somebody who has called in looking for a property, or if you're doing some sort of online ad, they've responded to that ad about a particular property. So that's where you're not just going, oh yeah, that's listed at this, blah, 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 and giving them information. You're connecting them to an appointment. The trial close tests the waters first. You should find out whether you and the client genuinely agree. Can you see how receiving a list of all the new homes in the market in your price range would help you in your home search? Great, let's meet. The assumptive close assumes the close and prevents them from saying no. It sounds like we should meet. I'm available most times this week. So what works best for you? Great, see you then. And then the tie down. Tie downs are phrases that ask for confirmation. Expressions like, wouldn't that be great? Or forming the question with can't you, isn't it, and wouldn't you? That asks for agreement to get your customer in the pattern of saying yes. We'll save hours on your home search if we meet in the office first. Saving time is important to you, isn't it? Great, let's meet. One of the top teams in our area at a class last year said, no matter what someone says to them in their lead generation efforts, they say, great, let's meet. Great, sounds like we need to meet. They said that has gotten them and their team more appointments, which has led to more transactions than anything else they've done through the years. So if someone poses a question or acts interested in anything you're saying, so you know what, let's go over that in some more detail. Sounds like we need to meet. Close to the appointment. Whatever works for you out of all of these 7 different options, you know, there's a lot of different ways to schedule somebody to the appointment. The problem is, the thing is you need to do it. All right. So buyer objections, they're going to happen sometimes. They're not going to happen as often as you think they are when you go, oh, I don't want to push someone. So just make your mindset a little bit different around that. So buyers are definitely going to have some sort of objections. They're sometimes going to say no. But like I said, not as often as we think, because we're limiting ourselves with that belief. Objections are good because it allows us to know what that person's motivation is and handle the issue. So instead of walking away at the first sign of objection, we want to explore that objection, and it's called objection handling. So the first thing you want to do is ask questions. Tell me more about that. Help me understand. You want to be empathetic. You want to acknowledge and say, I certainly understand how you feel. You want to identify the real issue, restate what you heard, and ask for confirmation. What I hear you saying is it's important to you to move by this time. What I hear you saying is you're not sure you'd be qualified financially. Great. We can come up with a solution. So you want to offer a solution, whatever it is, offer a solution. If you don't know the solution, say, hey, I'd love to explore this a little bit more, do some homework, and we can meet again next week. We can meet again tomorrow. I'll call you later on. Whatever that is, you're offering up a solution. And then urge them to agree. Ask again for an appointment. All right, so we have the Y4C2Ts, and if you haven't been at Keller Williams very long, you may not know what that is. We covered it in some previous Ignite sessions, but that is our value statement. So it's an acronym that stands for all the beliefs of Keller Williams. And the one particularly that comes in play here is the communication. So one of the C's is communication, seek first to understand. So we want to understand and we want to communicate. We don't want to reserve our words, because asking great questions can help us help others. And then Trust starts with honesty. So we're going to be honest with them. We're going to ask them to be honest with us, and then commit to finding a solution, urge them to agree to meet with us. And if a buyer continues to object to a meeting after you've addressed their concerns, offered solutions, and cultivate the relationship, just put them in your database and move on. We don't have to focus on one or two. That is the great thing about having a database, building a pipeline, because you're not going to be hung up on that one deal or that one cranky client. You're going to have 10 conversations a day. You're going to continue to add to your database. You're going to continue to do what you do. And as people step up that are ready, willing, able, you're going to be able to work with them. So you're not going to be hung up on one or the other. One no is not going to set you off course, because you're going to have enough yeses to fill that pipeline. All right, so let's talk about preparing for the buyer consultation. So, all right, so we want to get a signed buyer agreement. A lot of people have a limited belief around having a buyer agreement signed, saying, oh, it's not necessary, it doesn't do any good. The conversation that I have is we're going to have this agency agreement signed where I am in a committed relationship to you and you are in a committed relationship to me. One, it puts out that you're not just friendly hobby, you're a business person. Two, when you say committed relationship, when you say loyalty, you're having a different connotation with the relationship that you have with that person. Okay. When you make an appointment with a doctor or a dentist, do they simply tell you a time and day, or do they make sure that you show up at the right time on the right day and follow up and manage it? That's what we're going to do. Okay. We're not just going to go, oh yeah, sure, next Thursday, 3:00. We're going to manage that conversation. Okay. So this is how we make sure that we can have that buyer agreement signed, we can have an excellent appointment, and we can move on with our transaction. All right. So we want to confirm the day and time once someone agrees to the appointment. I personally send them a calendar invite. So I will say, hey, I'm so glad we met, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm going to send them a calendar invite for that day and time so they don't forget. I'm going to assume that they're very forgetful. Okay. Then I'm going to confirm our location. If it's not a listing, I'm meeting them at the office. One, you do not know these people. Don't jump out, run out, show property. That could put you in a dangerous situation. Meet them at the office, say you need a copy of their ID, run their information through FOREWARN, make sure you're not putting yourself in a dangerous situation. And then you're also going to make sure all decision makers attend. Why is that important?
So everybody's on the same page.
Well, everybody's on the same page, but also you don't want to waste your time.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a huge financial transaction to handle for these people. Okay. We're going to assume most property costs more than any car somebody's going to drive. Okay. So we want everybody to be on the same page. We don't want to then have a husband convince a wife or a mother convince a child. We want everybody that in regards to the financial decisions all to be together so that you can have a conversation with everybody. Right now, the market is crazy. If you're saying he said, she said through a family member, everything can get so discombobulated. So we want to have clear, effective communication. And to do that, you want to make sure all decision makers are there. You want to complete your buyer guide. So we have that buyer guide in the app where it just has like some standard things, but then there's also a template in Command. You could put together a PowerPoint. You can have kind of anything material wise you want that you'd be able to hand somebody. And then of course you're going to go to the office, prepare the meeting space. If you're meeting virtually, test out your Zoom so Zoom doesn't restart like mine just did. Open it up ahead of time, make sure you look good. You just want to have that very good first impression for this appointment. And then you want to review your lead sheet. Okay, we have checklists in our participant guide that I can make sure you have in our PC Google Drive, also on this buyer consultation information. And you want to make sure that you just have a really good appointment. So you want to prepare yourself for that. All right, the top 10 service areas of the buyer value proposition. Session 4, everybody develop their unique value proposition. And if you haven't, take time to do that. That's your elevator speech. That's what sets you apart from other people or other realtors. And you need to have that at the ready. You be prepared to say it, and you're going to say it so much you're sick of it. Because unless your friends and family can recite it back to you, you're not saying it enough. Okay, because that's how we're really going to train people around us what we're doing and our values, so that they can then refer us business. Okay, so these are the top 10 areas that buyers need a great agent to help them. Okay, your buyer presentation that you put together is going to touch on all of these. It should be personal to you and your value proposition, but this is what's important to a buyer. So you want to talk about a needs analysis. What is a needs analysis?
Is this in regards to what the potential buyer wants, or like their needs?
Yes.
Okay.
That buyer questionnaire to qualify a buyer, that's that needs analysis. That's what are they looking for? Who are the decision makers? What is their timeline? What does it look like financially for them? It's kind of a questionnaire situation. And then pre-qualification, pre-approval. Why is that important?
So we don't waste our time.
We don't waste our time. They don't waste their time. A beautiful thing to say is any offer we submit is going to need that pre-approval with it. So go ahead and let's get it. We want to be in the position to win any offers. We're in a multiple offer market again. So if we're going to win the offer, you find that home that you can't live without, we want to be ready to go. And so we need that pre-approval. I need the contact of your lender so that I can reach out to them. And if we're going to offer X, Y, and Z, your pre-approval needs to match that number so that we're not showing our hand if you're pre-approved for more than what you want to offer. All right, neighborhood information. Our app is fantastic. I love it so much, guys, because this takes the pressure off of us to answer some of those questions. It's pulled data from neighborhood information, school reports on the website, so that someone doesn't ask us. Okay, so have them using your app and say, as you can see on the app, it says blah, 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 blah. That's kind of a little bit of CYA there. And then, of course, the home search is very important to them. It's important that they know how to make an offer. It's important that you discuss negotiations with them, that you discuss you'll be coordinating with different vendors, that there's important timelines to follow, that you will help them with any pre-close preparation. Closing is important and post-closing is important. If we're going to create lifelong clients, you can't just go to the closing table and walk away from them. You need to maintain that relationship with them even beyond that closing table. What are your questions about this, guys? Pretty simple.
I don't actually have any questions. I'm pretty much taking my notes.
Gotcha. And Janelle, I don't know if they sent out the materials, but I'll make sure you have this. It's a whole packet of every one of these sessions. That there's a participant guide.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's talk about buyer guide contents that you can put in your buyer guide. You could do a welcome letter, timeline of buying process, the home search process, how to access the KW app, introduction to who you are, your value proposition, a little bit of a bio, reasons to buy a home. You could do a local market analysis with price range and trends, financial worksheet, credit check request, interest rate chart, items required by loan application, information on lenders, mistakes to avoid, and your buyer questionnaire. Now, you don't have to have all this. And having a couple of these items would be extremely beneficial when you meet with somebody. Specifically, if it's someone that's not an A buyer that doesn't know they're going to buy in the next couple of weeks, because that's you showing your value in a real way, in a tangible item, if you have a buyer guide to give to them. So remembering though that an investor will probably have different information they want than a first-time home buyer. A seasoned buyer may not need the same hand holding that a first-time buyer has, but you still want to make sure that you're showing your value, you're showing your professionalism and your expertise. All right, so here is where you can find it under designs. There's already a template in there that you can edit and download, and you can just have a generic one that you update annually or something. So you don't have to edit it every single time. And you can have this digitally, guys. If you send this over to somebody that you were talking to, that could be an option as well. So it's in Command under designs. Here is what it looks like. And then you can add any MLS information and things like that. All right, I'm not going to go through every page of this. It's got it broken down. But in it, I'll show you the time. I think it's got the timeline here. Let me skip through a little bit. But you can see it. I mean, it looks very legit. Super nice. These are great questions. Who's going to be living in the home? What are non-negotiables for your home? If you had a top 5, what would they be? Do you have a preference for the year the house was built? Do you need a house move-in condition? Are you willing to do some repairs? Those are really good questions. Again, more information in Command. Now, here is that timeline I was talking about. This is excellent for you guys now, and is excellent for any buyers that you're working with. So it's got the steps that you do and kind of what it looks like along the way. All right. What are your ahas from the buyer guide?
I just like how it keeps everything kind of organized. And it's like, if you don't remember all the steps or whatever the case may be, it's there for you.
Well, what I like is if you've been around me for 5 minutes, I get distracted very easily. And so if I'm talking to somebody, and particularly if it's a dominant personality and they're going to start talking so much, I forget what I planned on saying because I'm now going to be distracted by whatever conversation they're conducting. If I have a buyer guide or if I have a presentation, I can follow along with that and make sure that I hit all the bullet points I need to hit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're not having them lead the conversation or them lead the appointment, and then you walk out of it and then they're asking you 57 questions that you should have addressed in your appointment. Plus, it makes you look so professional. Honestly, it really does. All right, let's talk about conducting the buyer consultation. I have totally lost my place over here, y'all. Hold on 1 minute. Okay, so prior to meeting with your buyer, you need to have the printout that you're going to do. If you're going to do one, high quality, go to Kinko's, make sure it looks good. If you're meeting on Zoom, you can email that over to them, or you can pull it up like I'm doing, share screen. And then what's something else you may want to have to prepare for the appointment? Have pens together, have your buyer agreement blank, maybe have a blank contract that you can kind of review with them to say, hey, this is what this looks like when we submit an offer, especially if it's an A buyer, right? If it's not an A buyer, they may not be to that point yet. They're still making up their mind and figuring out if they're ready, willing, and able. But if they are, you may want to look at that. You may want to have some waters and things and prepare to go on showings. If they've already sent you over some properties they're interested in, you just want to be prepared based on whatever their situation is. You may have a situation where people are coming from out of town and they're only here for a weekend. So you definitely want to line that timeline up to get the most out of the time that they're here in town. And then what sort of mindset should you go into this buyer consultation with?
I would say like a helping mindset. Like
Helpful, caring,
Mhm.
confident. You want to be prepared in that way as well. That you know what you're going to cover with these people. What is it going to be? What's the outcome, right? That you wish to have, and how are you going to make sure that you ask for that outcome? No room for negativity. So don't think like that. All right. So this is an affirmation to make sure there is no negativity. And you can say, I am knowledgeable and caring, the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and in preparation, choose me to represent them to buy a home. I love these affirmations. All right. So here is an example of a buyer needs analysis, which you're going to conduct with that question. But you're going to have a lot of more questions than you are answers, especially when you're meeting with somebody for the first time. I don't know about you, but when I came into real estate, I felt like I wanted to just like present, and that's not really helping somebody. You're going to have a lot of questions because every family is different. Every situation is different. So there's not one that's going to be exactly like the one you did before. So you're going to have a lot of great questions to ask. All right, let's talk about a love letter. So we do not do love letters. What this is they got into a habit of, in order to win an offer, people would submit with their offer a story about their family and how their family was going to love the home and this, that, and the other. Well, it's become a liability because of fair housing violations. NAR calls them liability letters. The letters represent a fair housing risk because they can easily reveal personal information such as race, religion, familial status, and which could be used knowingly or unknowingly in the seller's decision to accept or reject the offer. So it's important to educate your clients on the pitfalls of love letters. Now, if your buyer is insistent upon this, then it's something that you're not a part of. If they want to write something and send it in the mail or whatever, it's not something that we as realtors are involved in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. It became very popular, and I could see where that personal touch would be something nice, but at the same time, the fair housing risk, we can't do that. So if you want more information, NAR has a whole article on buyer love letters. If you want some more info on that. All right, so we're going to talk about getting the agreement signed. Have you either one had anybody sign a buyer agreement yet?
Mm.
No?
No.
Okay, so like I said earlier, sometimes people are funny about not wanting to do this, and they just kind of do it with the offer later on. But to me, I want to close for them to sign that agreement so that if they sign that and I have said, hey, this allows me to be loyal to you and you loyal to me, then that just sets a tone for the relationship. It says we're in a professional relationship together. If they go out and they go to open houses alone and they go to new build and things like that, and someone says to them, have you signed a buyer agreement with somebody? Then they can be unethical, or they can say, yes, I have. At any time, someone can terminate that agreement. Someone cannot honor that, but that really sets a tone. And it, to me, it is powerful. Some people say, oh, well, they could work with anybody and they can sign 10 buyer agreements. That's true, but I'm going to make sure they've signed mine. I'm going to do my part. And if they're not getting value from the relationship with me and don't want to do business with me, I'm okay with them walking away from it. But it's not going to be because I was lazy and didn't get them to sign an agreement. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We have to have it on file anyway. Go ahead and get it signed. I mean, it's not anything difficult. It just needs to be part of what you're doing when you meet with people. If you're showing houses, you need to have them sign an agreement, because we don't get paid until there's a closing, and we're not showing agents, right? All right, wrapping up the buyer consultation. So we talked about the app. You definitely want anybody that you're working with using your app. The benefit of that is it connects to all MLSs worldwide, and it updates every 15 minutes. So there's going to be accurate information. It allows them to have multiple kind of buyer people on the list. So if they have a favorites list, they can share it with multiple people and not have to screenshot or share links. It automatically, through the app, shares. It gives us the ability to see what they're looking at. They can send you direct communication inside of the app, and they can look at information on neighborhoods. They can put in important addresses to them, and every home they look at will show them the commute to that. So it's a really cool thing. You want to get as many people as you can using it. If you don't have clients right now, have your friends and family just say, hey, will you test this out for me? Because it'll give you the ability to kind of see what it can do and play with it a little bit, so that when you do get clients, you have the ability to share that and be a little bit more knowledgeable about what it does. They're constantly updating it. It is super cool. I really enjoy it. And again, it takes some of that liability off of us, giving some of that neighborhood information that pulls from other sites. So they're not counting on us to give a personal recount of a neighborhood or a school system or anything like that. All right, so final ahas for the day. Janelle, this is your first Ignite session. Tell me what you think.
It's so much information. I mean, it was great. I appreciate it. I have a lot of notes.
Yes.
And I think it is very helpful. Very, very helpful. I'm trying to also get up my comfort zone in talking to different people, because I really don't. So some of the ways that you're telling me to respond, because I've had friends that say, oh, you're a realtor now. I'm like, yes. And that was it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm like,
have a little grace with yourself. You're getting used to it. The more you have these conversations, the easier it will become. Next time you say, hey, yes, I'm in real estate. Can I share my app with you?
okay.
Right.
Right.
People typically are like, yeah, sure. That there's always the next conversation. Just push yourself out a little bit at a time, and it will become more comfortable. And we're here as the PC group to kind of encourage each other and push you out of the nest a little bit.
Okay.
I'll push you out of the nest.
Great.
Won't I, Chris?
Yes.
But you threw yourself out of the nest.
Ready.
You threw yourself out of the nest week 1. So now there's no going back, Chris. Just like
yeah, for sure.
All right. So our ahas to achievement. You want to think about how your thinking has changed. What ideas or mindsets were new from today's session? What do you feel differently about? What was meaningful for you today? How will your behaviors be different going forward, Janelle? Just keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. What actions will you take? What tools, models, or systems will you use? And how will they make you accountable? I'm going to make sure, Janelle, that the Google Drive PC team folder is shared with you. It's got a lot of great resources in there. And, all these resources that we talked about today, the buyer guide, questionnaire, all those things are in there as well. And I'll make sure the participant guide is also shared with you. Ignite is great content, you guys. When I first got here, it was, I think, 4 sessions of 4 hours a day. And so these little 1 hour segments to me are, it's not, it typically is like 30 to 45 minutes, but are so much better to me because I can really process what we've talked about and then move on to another topic. All of our sessions 1 through 13 are in a YouTube link. Janelle, again, I'll make sure that you have that so that you can go back and play the other sessions. And we have 6 more. So we're almost done. I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.